with our time. And the question is, why? Anybody resonate with what I'm asking? Like, it's funny. We have so much free time compared to all of history. We have so much leisure time, so many possibilities. And yet, so few people have clarity on what I'm here for and what my individual contribution could be. We still can't find what we're looking for. It's an amazing reality. By the way, according to the psychologists and the sociologists, COVID has made this 10 times worse. There's a lot of literature on the subject, how we are stuck in a existential, reality. And it doesn't matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter where you live, and it doesn't matter how often we are stuck in our boxes, as you put it very beautifully, Rabbi Plotkin, is that we don't really know, what am I supposed to be doing? Really? I'm supposed to spend, God forbid, if this COVID thing keeps going, I'm supposed to spend the next year online? Just what am I supposed to do? So that's what I want to do. With everything that we have experienced in the last 2 years, and to be honest, in the last decades, as we've all gone through life, many of us don't have clarity on, what am I here for? What am I supposed to do? And what I've tried to do is to develop a way that any of us, even if we are getting on in life, can get some clarity, which will bring us greater joy and happiness. It's kind of fun and sad and amazing and interesting, not fun, funny, sad and amazing and interesting, that we don't really know. When we're young, we think that finding your mission in life is about a job. Remember those days, right? My father used to say, I started with nothing and now I still have most of it, right? Like we think about making a living, getting a job. Rabbi Plotkin mentioned that I'm an aspiring writer. You know what it's like to be an aspiring writer. Well, it's hard to put into words. We think about a job and getting clarity. And when you have the job, and looking around the screen, many of us have already gone through many working years. So one of the funny things is, and you can answer on the chat or you can give me a show of hands, but do jobs answer this question? Think about it honestly, looking back. When you're 15, 20, 25, you generally think that you get the job. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to be a lawyer. I'm here to be a doctor. I'm here to, and yet, when we've been that lawyer, we've been that doctor, and we look back, don't know, has it really provided the clarity in my life? Jobs are important, and you can do a lot, and a doctor can do a tremendous amount, and a lawyer can do a tremendous amount. You can do a lot, but it's funny that most doctors and lawyers and architects that I meet still haven't found their mission in life, still aren't clear on, what am I supposed to do with it? I'm not dead, thank God. I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s, I'm in my 70s. I got many more years. What am I supposed to do? Just watch television? So we sometimes think, and I don't know. I know there's some younger people on the call, and you tell me. But I know when I was growing up, we were sometimes sort of taught to think that life was about marriage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, think about it for a second, right? Did you think when you were single that when you got married, you would have clarity? This is what my life is about. I thought so. I mean, I noticed a lot of the ladies are actually nodding right now, which is very interesting. Whenever I give this talk or I speak about this subject, I always notice this exact phenomenon. I don't know if it's nature, nurture, Western culture. I don't know what it is. But I think women have this expectation even more than men. Tell me if you think that that's accurate. I don't know if culture is changing. I don't know, I grew up in Canada, but I haven't been, I haven't lived in Canada for 30 years. But both sides, men and women, I think this. And let's be honest, we're among friends. This is being recorded, but Rabbi, keep it private just in case. Does marriage provide you with that clarity? Honestly?
Depends your wife sitting next to you.
It's good. Well, first of all, let's be very honest. In the Western world today, there's a 50% divorce rate. Aside from the 50% divorce rate, we all know that there are many marriages that are, not so successful. And even the marriages that are successful, you and I both know we all have our moments, and it's not easy. And marriage is wonderful, and our spouses are wonderful, and we should invest in our marriages, of course. But it doesn't really give us this direction in life. I mean, just look around you, right? My wife used to say that, I know of no one who was happily married except my husband. That was her, her line. One of those things. So I used to respond that, marriages are made in heaven. So are tornadoes and thunderstorms. But, we all go through, like, marriage is wonderful. I'm not discounting. And it's part of who we are. But it's interesting. When we're young, we think that our jobs will give us this clarity of what life is about. And we think very often that our marriages, our relationships will, and hopefully they will provide something, but don't know, doesn't seem to be working for a lot of people, And what happens if you are single or divorced or widowed, or or if you just grow apart, or if your spouse is wonderful but doesn't fulfill everything in your life. Few spouses can fulfill everything in the other person's life, right? There's only one person who can make you happy. That's you, not your spouse. So when we get a little bit older and our kids appear, God willing, we think that, life is about having kids and raising kids. And I'm like big into family. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I have 5 teenagers right now. 5 teenagers. Come on, give me some love. This is, Rabbi's been there. So I get it. And our kids are our focus. And we should have great pride in Jewish community and Jewish tradition, how much we focus on our children. And that's wonderful. Somebody once asked a lady, you haven't told me anything about your kids. And how old are your kids? And, the new friend responds, well, the lawyer is 5 and the doctor is 3, meaning that, we have a lot of things that we put onto our children, and we focus so much on them, which is wonderful. Children, you spend the first 2 years teaching them to talk and to walk, and the next 16 years telling them to sit down and be quiet, right? It's just one of those things, like kids don't provide this. Let's be honest. Kids grow up. So what do you do when you're in your 40s or you're in your 50s and your kids go off to university and start their jobs and get married? And let's be honest, hopefully we have a good relationship with our children, but they have busy lives, very busy lives. So my life is dependent on their phone call. That's what my life is about. It's challenging. I don't mean to be depressing. What I'm trying to do is to bring out the reality, and I've seen this in the last 2 years, unbelievably around the world. On Zoom mostly, that we have a problem. And our problem is that we don't have clarity on why I'm here and what I can contribute. And we are often fooled into thinking that the externals, the job, the house, the car, even the spouse and the family, will define me. And at a certain point in life, very often it gets very frustrating because we don't have that clarity. It's really the question of life. Rabbi Plotkin, you'll recognize the story a little bit. I think I told you the story once. When I when I left Montreal, I spent a year in Boston. I was about to make Aliyah and to move to Israel. And my parents, now again, this is the 1990s, there was no internet. The phone calls from Israel were extremely expensive. I don't know if you remember those days, ladies and gentlemen, when it was like $4 a minute. Now it's free, right? There was no video. My parents, very good Zionists, Montrealers, they were less than excited about me moving to Israel, because at the time, the way that it was thought of was like, okay, so we're not going to see our kid again, we're not going to know our grandkids. So they asked me to slow down. And I spent a year in Boston taking classes at BU and Brandeis and doing other things like that, and traveled around the States. And I used to go on Friday nights to the Chabad of Boston University, of BU, or by Shmuel Posner. Right? I figured you're old friends. And he had on his wall of the Chabad house one word in Hebrew. The word was printed big, ayeka, ayeka. And I remember in my early 20s going up to Rabbi Posner and saying, Rabbi, what is that? By the way, it was just like the Hebrew word, like it wasn't even explained or translated. By the way, fast forward 20 years, and until COVID, I was one of the guest speakers for many years at the Chabad International Students Shabbaton in Crown Heights every year, what they call the Pgisha. And Rabbi Posner would come, and we reacquaint, and we were old friends. And he didn't even remember having this sign up on his wall. And I told him the story. And so I went to him in my early 20s, and I said, what is ayeka? Right? So it turns out that if you go back to the Torah, right, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve are not supposed to eat from the tree, and they eat from the tree, and they hide from God. And God comes and says, you'll see this in the, I think, third chapter of Genesis, or the fourth at the beginning. And God says to Adam, to the first man, right? He says, ayeka, where are you? So the obvious question is, listen, if God is God, he knows where Adam is, right? I mean, how do you hide from God, right? That's the whole point of the whole chapter. I mean, so what the Hasidic masters explain, and this is what the Chabad rabbi at BU was sharing on his wall, was this was not a physical question. This was not a question of, hey, where are you hiding? God knew where Adam was. This was an existential question. Where are you in life? What are you doing? Have you thought about what you can do with the rest of your life? Have you thought about your day? Like, where are you? So this little sign on the Chabad house of Boston University in the early 90s changed my life. Couldn't get it out of my mind. Ayeka, like, what are you doing? So, typical college student in the States, is, in Canada, the system's a little bit different, as we all know, but in the States, like, you spend an undergraduate degree, drinking, and partying. Like, really? That's really like ayeka, where are you? Now, this problem, this question, it actually gets stronger as we get older because we run out of time. Ayeka, where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? So what I want to do now, in a very short amount of time, is I want to give you a system for figuring out what to do in your life. It's not my system. It is based on Jewish tradition, and part of it will be very familiar. Part of it will be, if I judging from previous audiences, part of it will be a massive surprise. That's how it came to me. As with anything, there is what we call in Torah literature a sur mira v'aseh tov. That's from a verse in the Psalms, 34, chapter 34, if you want to look it up. It said, depart from evil, sur mira, leave evil, and do good. right? There's always the left hand and the right hand. There's always the positive and negative. And anything we do in life, there's something to step away from and something to step towards. So if you're trying to get clarity and a little bit of direction in life, there's two aspects. What should I avoid and what should I do? So what do we leave? What do we have to leave, depart from? This is the easy one. It's only going to take us a couple minutes. I saw a stat in online a couple days ago that the average American, and I'm assuming that us Canadians are the same, but that the average American checks their phone 100 times a day. And when I first heard it, I was in shock. 100 times a day? And then I thought about it. Ladies and gents, assuming that you have a smartphone, that you're on a smartphone, how many times do you check it a day? Well, think about it, right? I get up at about 6 in. What's the first thing I do? I'm not saying this is good or bad or ugly or anything, but I say a little prayer, thanking God for waking up, Moda Ani, and then I check my phone. Right? I sleep for about, 6, 7 hours a day. I don't know about you. So let's say we're up for 17, 18 hours. Typical person if they check their phone 5 times an hour, it's easily 100 times. That's amazing. And so distracting. So the first thing is to give ourselves a little bit of a break. We're saying, how am I going to get a little more clarity on what I want to do in my remaining years of life, hopefully many of them. First thing is step away a little bit from the technology. This doesn't mean you have to move to a mountaintop. It does mean that getting a break from the stress, the technology, the nonstop emails and texts and WhatsApps, and it's an important thing because we are so addicted to it and so programmed to it, we can't think any deeper. By the way, this is one of the great benefits of nature. And I know that it's cold in Toronto now, so I'm not saying it's easy. Even colder in Montreal, if I'm not mistaken, or at least last week it was unbelievable. But to get a little bit of a break. So the sur mira, the leading thing is try and find a way that I can get some peace and quiet, get a little bit of nature, get a little bit of a break, get away from the technology for a little while. If I can do that, then maybe I can focus a little more. And now let's focus on what we need to do. So I don't know if you've ever heard this. You ever hear this idea, like, imagine that today was the last day of your life. What would you do with it? Anybody ever hear this? People say this in speeches and talks, right? It's you've heard it. We've all heard it, right? Something always bothered me about it, right? So I understand what the idea is. The idea is that, when you hear a eulogy, God forbid somebody passes, you hear a eulogy, they rarely talk about how many hours the guy put in the office, right? It's about, their relationship with their wife and how much time they spent with their kids and the charity they gave, big contributors to Chabad of Markham. The rabbi didn't ask me to say that, but it's an important cause. What did they do? Right. So the idea of asking, like, if it's your last day in life, what would you do? The idea is to try and focus us, maybe, do something. But think about it. If I only had, God forbid, 1 day left on the planet, what would I do? What would I do? Well, I would probably make a big contribution to the Chabad telethon, and I would probably, hug my wife and kids, right? And probably, not do anything else. Maybe watch the sunset. But the thing is, should I do that today? I said, I made a contribution to hug my wife and kids, but I shouldn't do anything else. And then tomorrow, I'm going to imagine that that's my last day. And what am I going to do? Just sit there hugging my wife and kids all day? And the day after that, and the day after that. After a while, I admitted to myself that I don't like this idea of imagine that tomorrow was the last day, right? It's a helpful tool. But the truth is, I hope to have a lot more days than just one. So the question is, what am I going to do in the next year? What am I going to do in the next 6 months? And that's a very different answer. Okay, so here's where we get to the formula. This formula comes from a Hasidic master known as the Nesiva Shalom. Nesiva Shalom, who passed away about 30 years ago, lived in Jerusalem. He was the Slonim Rebbe, and he focused on what was referred to as the Yiyud and the Tikkun. The Hebrew words don't matter. Two sides of a coin. I'm going to explain it in my way. When I was studying in Jerusalem, one of my teachers, I'm talking 25, 30 years ago, one of my teachers, elderly rabbi, was speaking about finding your mission in life. And I, in my early 20s, whispered to a friend, and the rabbi said, Doron, what do you have to share? I said, well, Rabbi, to be honest, at the time I was already writing and I was already speaking. And I said, Rabbi, I think I'm pretty lucky. I kind of already found, my direction in life. I'm a pretty good communicator, and, I enjoy it, and, people seem to like it. So I've already found what I'm doing in life. It was like a terrible, chutzpah kind of arrogant thing to say at the time. And this rabbi said something to me, which stuck in my mind for 25 years. He looked at me and he said, Doron, you think you're on the planet to do what you're good at? And I remember being in shock because, yes, yes, I do. Well, I'm not. What are you talking about? And that's what he meant. The Nesiva Shalom, the Slonim Rebbe, teaches we're here to do two things in life. And this is the formula. On the one hand, yes, we are here to do what we're good at, meaning think to yourself, what do I enjoy? What do I look forward to? What am I good at? Some people are great at cheering up other people. Some people are great at building, businesses or organizations. Some people are great at writing. Some people are great at speaking. Some people are great at organizing. There's an endless dancing, singing, whatever, right? Just cheering up a friend. When you get up in the morning, what do you look forward to? I don't know about you, but I have a to-do list. I don't like my to-do list. I don't, right? You know what I suggest having? Have a can't wait to-do list. What's on your list in life? Make a list of things that you look forward to, that you want to do. If you don't have anything in life that you're looking forward to, you will by definition be depressed, especially in a Canadian winter and especially in COVID, right? We have to have things that we're looking forward to. It could be there's a certain movie you want to see. There's a book you want to read. There's a place you want to visit. There's an old friendship you want to rekindle. Anything, something you want to study, something you want to learn. We have to have things to look forward to. Figure out, what do I like in life? What gives me energy? That is the easy one, right? That's the obvious. We all hear this. And here comes the other side of the coin. This is what the Slonim Rebbe, this Hasidic master, taught. Now, think about what's difficult. Think about where you fail. Think about what keeps being challenging month after month, year after year. I'll give you an example. God forbid, I actually know a person that's been divorced 4 times. 4 times. We all know marriage is hard. We all know life is hard. I'm not judging anybody. But let's be honest, 4 times? I don't know for sure. chances are it has something to do with him, right? He didn't just get, unlucky 4 times. So that's an indication. The indication is that there's something he has to work on. There's something about relationships that he's here to fix that he hasn't fixed. Another example. If you're like me and you have a bad day, what do you want to do, right? You probably want to just turn over, a new leaf, go to sleep, wake up and start the next day, right? And that's understandable. We need to restart, absolutely. One of the great Musar masters of the previous generation, Shlomo Volbe Zatzal, what he used to say, that take a look at your failures, take a look at your difficulties, and think about them as a metal detector on the beach. They indicate what you're here for. Meaning, let's say you have a guy that has a problem keeping a job. Nice guy, good husband, good father. Well, he can just be on unemployment the rest of his life. Or you can do the metal detector and say, wait, there's something about responsibility, commitment, that he has to work on. These are the 2 sides of the coin to find what you're here for. By the way, it's not a permanent decision. Things change, we get older, we go through stages, and that's all good, right? But the idea here, and then we're going to open it up, as you said before, Rabbi, to questions and comments. The idea here is that this is a simple way, in my experience, it shouldn't take you more than an hour. It actually would probably take you less, right? To get clarity on what I can do with my time, with my energy, with my focus. Because if you're like me, you probably feel like, oh my gosh, the last 2 years, what a waste of life. We've been sitting in our boxes. I love that phrase, Rabbi. But it doesn't have to be that way. Human beings feel good when we use our time well. And we feel bad when we waste our time. Just think about it. When you spend hours watching that old movie that you didn't really like the first time, and you've seen 3 times, do you feel good about yourself? No. I feel like I'm just, meh. And that's the goal of this talk. And that's really the goal of life. To get a little clarity on what can I do? What can I contribute? Not thinking about, what do I have to do? What can I contribute? What can I bring to the table? So let's summarize, and then we'll get into questions and comments, and we can even do a couple practical things if we have time. We started out with the realization that when we're young, we often think that getting the right job or getting married, having kids, they will define my life. They will give me direction and happiness. And they do in some ways. But as we get a little bit older, very often we find, I still can't find what I'm looking for. There's something missing here. Occasionally, you have a person who has clear direction in their life. They know from the time that they're 15 what they want to do, and they do it. But most of us don't. And having some clarity brings happiness, brings health, brings productivity on all the scales. All the sociologists and the researchers talk about it. So how do we figure out a little bit, for those of us who are, in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it is, how do we figure out, what am I supposed to do? There's the 2 sides of the coin. It's a formula that works based in Jewish tradition and based in life experience. On the one hand, make a list. What do I look forward to? What am I good at? What are my natural talents in? What gives me energy? What gets me up in the morning, right? That's an indication that this is the kind of thing that I'm meant for. I have what to bring. I have what to offer. The other side of the coin, the exact opposite. Take a look at, where do I have difficulty? Maybe there's a person that's been strongly involved in the Jewish community his or her entire life and has real trouble with prayer. Just can't, so maybe that's, take a class, learn about it. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's dealing with anger. We all have things to fix, and that's why we're here. We're here to fix ourselves. Hasidic master once said, if you think you're finished, you're finished. Meaning, if I'm alive, then there's a reason I'm alive. There's something about me to fix, and there's something I can contribute to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, this formula sounds simple, sounds simplistic. It is life-changing. People who take the time, it's not a lot of time, to get a little more clarity on what I can contribute to the community, what I can do for my family, what I can do for the world, they are happier, they are more productive, and they are healthier. And that's the formula that I wanted to share with you. The positive and the negative. What gives me life, what attracts me, what turns me on, gives me energy, and what do I have trouble with? And those are the two things that I'm here for. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to save us some time. Rabbi, can we open it up for some questions, comments?
Sure, yeah, we have a choice here. Either you can unmute yourself and ask the question straightforward, or you can put it onto the chat. Either way is fine, but you're welcome to ask your questions. And if you like to, you can reveal yourself. So while you're asking the question, we know who you are.
And Rabbi, if you have anything to add, you're more than welcome.
I'm going to ask just devil advocate's question. Can I ask something?
Yeah, please.
Since I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Question of the whole premise of the Shia, right? Which I heard this many times. That the things that you have the biggest challenge in, that means that's your tikkun, that's your place you need to work on, that God gave it to you. Maybe you should just focus on the things you're good at, and the things that you have problems with, stay far away from it. How do you know that that's your your mission in life isn't those things that you're having problems with? If you're having problems with it, maybe it's not for you. I'm just bringing this as
No, it's absolutely great. And this is exactly the discussion that I had 25 years ago with that rabbi in Jerusalem, when he turned to me and he said, Doron, you think you're here to do what you're good at, right? Because I was basically asking your question, which is, yeah, I mean, and so what I understood, and this is what I'm trying to share, and this has actually formed my life in many ways in the last 25 years, is we'll think about it on a theological level and on a practical level. Okay, those are the two different steps that I want to do to answer your excellent question. Theological level, God doesn't need me, right? He creates me with talents and skills, and it's easy and exciting for me. And I'm going to go and I'm going to help build up a community in Toronto. I'm going to go and I'm going to, make money and it's easy for me. I enjoy it, right? God can do anything in his own way. What is it like? There's no challenge there, right? So it can't be that that's what life is about, right? And that's the theological. The practical side is we see that people who don't deal with their inner demons, with their challenges, whether it is through prayer, through self-help seminars, through therapy, through all of the above, through Hasidus, through Muslim, whatever it's going to be, that they're people that are not happy in life. Successful, wealthy, busy, and yet, because the reality indicates to us that there's something inside that, you may be great at making money and giving it to charity, but if you never deal with your anger issues, you are not a happy person and you don't have happy relationships. So that's the two-level answer to your excellent question, in my humble opinion. Number one, the theological, God doesn't need me to do what's easy for me. Who needs me? And the second is that we see that it doesn't work. I don't know if you have any comments. I'm glad to hear.
Two very good answers. I just wanted to hear the answers.
Absolutely. Great. Ladies and gents, any questions, comments, anything you want to share? Be glad to have your contributions. Yes, Lena.
Okay. Hi. Thank you very much, Doron, for that interesting talk.
Pleasure.
And I remember a while back, I've always grappled with the idea of how do you know what you're on this earth for? You know how human beings ask themselves, is this all it's all about? There must be more to it. And I remember going to my rabbi, also a very wonderful rabbi like Rabbi Plotkin. His name is Dr. Rabbi Mendel Kaplan. And I went directly to him and I said, Rabbi, how do we know what our mission is in this world? How do you know what to do? We could be guessing all our lives and never hit it on the right spot. And he said to me, Lena, your mission in this world is dealing with what you find the most difficult and challenging to do in your life. That's your mission. And suddenly it made it so clear in my mind that that's true. I should be dealing with what I'm having difficulty dealing with. That's my mission. And it's very
well
difficult to succeed in that. It's endless trial and error.
The only minor tweak that I would make to how you just described it, Lena, is that you're succeeding all the time along that. There's no final success, right? If you think you're finished, you're finished. But it's not a binary choice. That's what life is about. I thank you that you articulated that very well. It's exactly the direction that I've been going. I would say, by the way, it's kind of interesting that the better a person you are, and I don't mean that anybody's better than other people, but I just mean like the more that a person is focused on others and on giving, the more they realize this. You ever notice that? Like, just let's take an extreme example. A person who is, very materialistic and very selfish and, doesn't contribute to the community and doesn't just think whatever. So, they're not bothered by this question on a conscious level. So the very fact that you're thinking along this shows how deep a person that you are, because that's the kicker, right? Is that we sense it. We sense it. I'm here to do something more. But thank you. That's exactly what I was aiming at in terms of.
Thank you for your input. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Anybody else? Other questions, comments? Okay, so somebody's texting me. And I'm just going to privately, and I'm just going to read it to you without the name. Do you feel that the two sides of the coin are consistent throughout your life? Or in different times, decades, stages, the challenge is different and what brings joy is different? Or is it a perpetual uncovering of the same challenge to work on? Excellent question. Thank you, Fred. I'm just kidding. It wasn't Fred. They wanted to keep this private. So like this, absolutely, I believe it changes. And I'll give you a few indications of that. Everybody hears a question, and it's a one answer. I'm here for X, and the truth is that we go through many, many stages in life, as we should, as we grow, right? There's a famous question in Jewish intellectual circles, which is what is the function of habit? You ever think about it this way? And it coming from a theological, religious perspective, right? Everything has a role, right? Like God created everything directly, indirectly, right? So I'll give you an example of it, okay? So Rav Kook, who was the first chief rabbi of the modern yishuv of the modern land of Israel, he used to say, well, if everything has a function, what's the function of atheism? It's a great question, isn't it? What do you think about it? Like, why did God create atheism? It's like a radical, And his answer was amazing. His answer was that because we all have so many mistaken, crazy, foolish, childish notions of what God is and who God is, that atheism brings us to a reality that just get rid of all that stuff about God being Santa Claus, start over, say, okay, learn it, learn the Tanya with the rabbi, you get a good of who and God, that's everything has a function. So the question is, what's the function of habit? In other words, in Judaism, we always focus on the fact doing things by habit is not good, right? praying by habit, just saying good morning by habit. We're not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to be alive and thinking. So what's the function of habit? And the main answer that I've heard that really resonates with me is that habit can be really bad, but it's also good because it frees us to go up the rungs of the ladder. And this is the answer to that question that I just read from Fred. I'm not kidding. I'm just kidding. It wasn't Fred. The point is, we can't focus on everything all the time. And we can't focus on what's difficult, as Lena, as you put it before. We can't always focus on everything that's difficult. It's just too overwhelming. But we go through a stage, and this is hard for me, and this is what I'm working on now. And then you kind of graduate. You go up a stage of the ladder, and that's not a challenge anymore. That's a little bit like a habit. You can handle that, and have another challenge and another challenge, right? It's like Abraham going up the 10 tests. So yes, things change. Obviously, it changes when you're single, when you get married, God forbid, widowed or divorced, kids grow up, a parent, a grandparent. All of these things are part of our function in life. We have a lot to contribute. Most of what each of us is going to do is private. It's not famous and world, earth shattering, but it's crucial nonetheless. And it changes, and that's why it's good if you can spend 5 minutes once a week. By the way, this is why we have Shabbat, the Sabbath day, Shabbat. It means to stop. That's what it means. You know how that when they go on strike here in Israel, you know what they call it? Shvita, from the word Shabbos. Shvita, stop. The whole point is just stop every once in a while and think about, listen, I'm 50 years old. I'm 60 years old. I'm 70 years old. Hopefully I have another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What do I want to do? What's on my can't wait to-do list? What do I want to do? You should have things that you're looking forward to. Give them to the world, provide them joy. And what do I have to fix? You might have a relationship. And by the way, you probably do have a relationship, according to the stats, that there's somebody in your family that you have a lot of trouble with. We all have somebody like that. So wouldn't it be nice to somehow repair that relationship? Wouldn't that be one of the great accomplishments of my life if I can repair that relationship? It can be done. Any other questions, comments? Rabbi, anything to add?
So if my purpose in life is my challenge.
Both sides of the coin, right?
Right. That's one of the sides, right? So I overcome my challenge. And now I have a brand new challenge that comes as a result of that. So does my purpose in life keep on evolving?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, God knew it from the beginning, if you want to get theological, but yes, yes, it is. And as I grow, my potential grows. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Rabbi, think of it just for this, and I'm sure you're asking for the benefit of the crowd, but when you were a young rabbi starting out, building a community in Toronto, the challenges that you faced are very different from, would it be insulting if I called what you have over there an empire?
I don't know. Ask people.
I mean, it's a completely different world, right? Yeah. I mean, the challenges are completely different. Being a grandfather versus being, a father, a young rabbi versus now the mentor of rabbis. So everything, as we go through life, things change. And that's good. That's a sign that we're getting somewhere. Any final questions, comments, anyone?
Yeah, Raphael wants to know who's the Zadie over there. The young little boy there, he wants to know.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, ladies and gents, what I'm going to do right now, for those who are interested, I'm just going to put in, I'm not good on the phone, but I am good at email. If for any reason there is anything I can help you with, just to think through these ideas or to my email, I just put into the chat. And I am glad to follow up. A special place in my heart for the Chabad of Markham. I've stayed with Plotkins many times and been with you many times. So I'm glad to do. Again, this is just especially with COVID, thinking along these lines is life-changing. It means that we can take, instead of just kind of surviving and hoping to get through the day and get through the season and get through the winter, suddenly life can be good again. And we can have some direction, some positivity, some challenge. And that's the goal of what I wanted to share with you. So thank you very much for joining. Rabbi, thank you so much for inviting me to share with you. And if you don't have any more questions, I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3:29 a.m. in the Holy Land, and my adrenaline is going and I'm fully caffeinated. What do I do now? There's no way I can go back to sleep. It's way too early to go and pray. What am I going to do now? I don't know if you have any solutions for me. I think I'll go for a jog.
That is your challenge. That is you're developing your purpose in life.
There you go. There you go. Thanks very much, everybody. It's been a real pleasure.
Ah,
You could have another cup of coffee.
There you go.
That's where we started, right?
That's where we started. Exactly right.
Thank you very much.
Else this year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Maybe you should try
Thank you for the
decaf.
share.
it's around.
Stay well and remain negative.
Thanks. All the best, everybody.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you so much. Okay, all folks, have a good night.
And you
Thank
too,
you,
Rabbi.
Rabbi. You
Keep well.
too.
We,
Thank you, Rabbi Plotkin. Thank you.
All
Thanks.
the best. Nasa.
Rabbi Pluck, I just want to say one thing. Michael and I have been reading your book. That's our part of our Shabbos reading.
Wow.
We're really enjoying it. But one day we got to talk to you. We got lots of questions.
That's what I got you guys for.
And it's a wonderful book. So
Okay.
I encourage everybody to get a copy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you,
Have
Rabbi.
a good
Shabbat
night.
shalom.
Good night, Rabbi.
See you. We'll see you. We love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.